I never imagined that the spark missing from my marriage would come from someone I was never supposed to notice. But sometimes, life doesn't ask permission. It just happens. And the more you try to ignore it, the more it finds its way into your thoughts, until ignoring it feels impossible. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the kitchen light as Emily stirred her tea in slow, absent-minded circles. The spoon clinked gently against the mug, an almost hypnotic sound that filled the space where her husband's voice used to be. Blake had texted her hours ago, "Late again, don't wait up." That was all. No miss you, no warmth. Just words on a screen that felt more like a work memo than a message from the man she married. She set the spoon down and glanced toward the hallway. A soft laugh drifted from the living room where Adam, Blake's younger stepbrother, was watching a sitcom. He had moved in 2 weeks earlier after breaking things off with his girlfriend, saying he needed a fresh start. Blake had offered him the guest room without even asking Emily, and she hadn't objected. Adam was polite, tidy, and, in a quiet way, attentive. At first, it was nothing more than fleeting glances, those tiny, lingering looks that last a second too long. When he entered a room, his eyes would find hers, hold for a moment, and then drift away with that half-smile he seemed to wear without effort. He never said anything that crossed a line. He didn't touch her. But somehow, he noticed her. And that alone made her chest ache. Blake hadn't really seen her in years. She tried, changing her hairstyle, wearing perfume he once loved, even buying a new nightgown weeks ago. Nothing. He'd once made her feel like the most captivating woman in the world, but now it was as if she were invisible. Adam, though. Adam noticed. Like earlier that afternoon when she bent to pick up the laundry basket and felt his gaze trail across her back. When she stood, he was smirking, playful, unashamed, and she hadn't said a word. Now she stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room, sipping her tea, her eyes drawn to him. He was stretched out on the couch, shirtless, one arm draped lazily over the backrest. The flicker from the TV lit his jawline and the faint shadows on his chest. He turned his head and caught her looking. "You always make that sleepy tea?" he asked, voice casual but with that teasing lilt. "And you never offer me any?" She rolled her eyes lightly. "Didn't think you were the herbal tea type." "Depends on who's offering," he said, tilting his head in that way that made her heart skip. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "You want a cup or not?" "Nah," he said, still grinning. She lingered there longer than she should have, then turned back to the kitchen, her pulse tapping a quicker rhythm. It was harmless, she told herself. Just harmless flirting. But the air between them seemed to hold on to those moments, even hours later, when the house had gone still. It was past midnight when she heard footsteps. She looked up from the couch to see Adam, hair slightly mussed from sleep, wearing a plain white t-shirt that fit him a little too well. "You're still up?" he asked softly. "Couldn't sleep," she said. "Same," he murmured, rubbing his neck. "TV too loud?" "It's fine," she replied. He sat beside her, not at the far end of the couch, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. The flicker of a candle on the shelf danced in her peripheral vision. "You ever think about just leaving for a while?" he asked suddenly. "Driving somewhere with no plan, no phone, no one knowing where you are?" She blinked. "More often than I should admit." "Yeah," he said with a small smile. "This house, it's like a museum. Everything's cold and untouched." She laughed softly, surprised by the accuracy. "That's a little too real." He studied her for a moment. "You're not what I expected." Her brows lifted. "What do you mean?" "Blake always said you were quiet, distant. Cold, even." "But he's wrong. You've got warmth. Fire. It's just buried under too much silence." The words landed deep, almost painfully. She didn't reply, but she felt something shift inside her. The rain started just after dinner the next night. Heavy drops rattled against the windows, the kind of storm that makes you light candles without even thinking about it. Emily stood by the curtain, watching the water streak down the glass, when Adam appeared, a blanket over one shoulder and 2 glasses of wine in hand. "Red or white?" he asked, showing her the bottle of red with a faint grin. "Trying to be a good house guest?" she teased. "Something like that," he said. They sat on the couch, sharing the blanket. The thunder rumbled low and distant. He sipped his wine, his thigh brushing against hers. Accidental at first, maybe, but he didn't move it away. "You always seem tense," he said after a while. "Maybe I have reasons." He leaned back slightly. Sometimes silence is easier than saying what no one wants to hear. She didn't respond, but she felt the weight of his words. Then his voice dropped, softer now. "You know he doesn't see you, right?" Her head turned sharply. "That's not your place to say." "Maybe not," he admitted. "But it's true." She looked away, but her heart was racing. He wasn't trying to provoke her. He was just honest. A flash of lightning lit the room, followed by the soft flicker of the candle between them. He reached for the remote, leaning close, his arm brushing her shoulder. She caught the faint scent of his cologne, warm and earthy, and without meaning to, she bit her lip. His eyes dropped, just for a second, and she knew he'd noticed. The power went out. The sudden darkness seemed to pull them closer, the silence between thunderclaps thick with unspoken thoughts. Adam lit another candle. The flame cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp lines and the steady way he was watching her. He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered just a little too long. "Say stop," he murmured, "and I'll go." She couldn't. She wouldn't. Instead, she found herself leaning into him. Their lips met slowly at first, testing, searching. When she didn't pull away, his hand settled at her waist, pulling her closer. The warmth of his skin, the quiet strength of his touch, it all filled the hollow spaces she had been living with for so long. She knew this wasn't what she was supposed to do, but it didn't feel wrong. Not in that moment. When they finally pulled back, the candlelight danced between them, their breathing uneven. Adam's shirt was tossed over the arm of the couch. He took her hand. "You're not going to regret this?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "I should. But I don't." Across the room, her phone lit up. Flight delayed. "Be home tomorrow afternoon." Emily stared at the message, then let the phone go dark. For the first time in years, she felt seen. She felt alive. And she wasn't ready to let that feeling fade.